Buy a new Ferguson Major, that is what it would look like. First of our John Deere's next, 3130 American tractor, 95 horsepower, 6-cylinder. Very much a byword for a quality tractor. Still today, John Deere market leaders, and great to see that tractor here. Ferguson Diesel Major next. Again, we're moving on into about the 1950s. New Performance Major following it. Again, 52 horsepower. An absolute cornerstone of the whole Ford tractor operation throughout the 50s and 60s. Those wonderful Ferguson Majors. A real byword. You knew on a cold morning if the Ferguson Major wouldn't start, nothing would start. So another Alice, a D272 now, still that configuration where designed so the driver can see the implements, usually underneath the middle of the tractor, and they were very much designed for hoeing in maize crops, in tobacco crops, sugar beet, all that sort of thing. Nice to see such a nicely presented tractor. Ferguson Diesel Major next. Nice to see you, madam. Again, very much in its working clothes, but that takes nothing at all away from that tractor. W.J. Cooper, the local Ford agents at Newport Pagnell, supplied that, so it's fairly safe to assume that is very much a local tractor. Good afternoon, Lewis. How are we doing? The term tractor is quite a broad subject, and here we have a variation on the whole tractor idea, which is the sort of vehicle you would see perhaps in a market gardens or in a parks department, that sort of thing. A wonderfully manoeuvrable, unbelievably tight turning circle, and a very unique solution to how do you create reverse. Well, you simply spin the engine through 180 degrees, and there you are, you're going in reverse. Early grey Fergie next, 4-cylinder petrol paraffin, so that starts on petrol and then you turn it over to paraffin once it's warmed up. The whole of the grey Fergie story really revolves around that hydraulic lift on the back, because to say that was a revolution is something of an understatement. Made the whole tractor a very, very versatile, useful and a highly productive tractor. Only about 20 horsepower, but amazing to think that today's absolute pinnacle of technology, which is a robot operated tractor, and what sort of horsepower? Well, it's about 20 horsepower. So the whole thing has gone full circle there. So great to see these grey Fergies. The definition of a successful tractor, of course, is will anybody buy it? And over 500,000 people bought grey Fergies. So by definition, a very, very successful little tractor. Made at Banner Lane in Coventry, in the old Standard Car Works. Great to see. Now moving on in years, an 856 case, 4-cylinder, around about 65 horsepower, something like that, 60 horsepower. Made in Germany, Q cab, so a quiet cab, a nice environment for the for the driver, and of course that cab is a safety cab which protected the driver if the tractor happened to turn over. A wheel horse next, a little American garden tractor, Briggs and Stratton engine on there. Another John Deere, my goodness, these 3130s, absolute byword for quality tractor, straight out of America. John Deere, of course, a market leader today, the most successful manufacturer of tractors in the UK at the moment. Highly, highly sought after. The first and only ransom crawler here this weekend, the MG2. Again, specifically designed for market gardens, that sort of thing. Highly manoeuvrable. Very much a wartime little tractor, end of the 30s and into the 1940s. A beautiful Massey Ferguson 65 next, the Mark II. Very, very nicely presented. 60 horsepower. A tremendously successful tractor for Massey Ferguson. Perkins engine. And that would go up against that Fordson Major. Somebody's been fiddling about with this one. This has got a V8 in it. So we'll talk to that gentleman in a minute, find out about that. Hello sir, nice to see you again. A variation on the theme. We seem to be specialising in tractors that have been got at. Now my goodness, about as English as you could ever imagine, the wonderful Field Marshal. Single cylinder, one piston about the size of a bucket, and that piston goes backwards and forwards rather than up and down. Absolutely stunning to see those two tractors there. Pretty well unique in the concept that you start them with a shotgun cartridge. I hasten to add, having taken the shot out, but quite an acceptable thing and not a terrible thing to do to the Field Marshal. As I say, there was over 500,000 grey Fergies, and my goodness, there's never going to be a shortage, because if only 10% of them survive, that's still 50,000 tractors. Harry Ferguson set to and designed that unique concept, and then realised that there were no implements, so they turned around and made about 50 different implements to go on the grey Fergie. David Brown 1212 now, so we're getting on into the 1980s. Anybody built like me knows that that is not a particularly easy cab to get in and out of, but we won't go there. Another wonderful grey Fergie. We are experiencing a little bit of interference from some of these petrol paraffin tractors with our PA system, but I hope it's not causing too much of a problem for you. International 444 next again, made at Bradford in England by International Harvester, which were a huge industrial complex in America, sent tractors over during the war and realised there was a colossal market for tractors in Europe, so set two in the UK, and that 444 again very nicely presented, a nice and unusual tractor. Another Field Marshal, actually a German design originally, but adapted by Field Marshal. And Marshall, of course, we know so much about the whole Marshall steam engine story. A John Deere three-wheeler next, quite an unusual tractor there. I think, what letter is that, sir? I think it's a B. And that three-wheeler configuration is all about the ability of that tractor to turn a very tight circle on the headland. Very much an American through and through. Hello, sir. Nuffield 465 again. I understand that one's for sale. So make him an offer as he comes round. International B250 again, very nicely presented tractor. The first tractor that had diff lock commercially available in the UK, so quite an unusual and quite an innovative and clever tractor. Massey Ferguson 165 next, again very, very successful tractor for Massey Ferguson. Made in Coventry, as I've already said. That one has a safety cab on it. Nicely presented tractor. Another Nuffield this time. Good afternoon, sir. Nice to see you. The Nuffield 465, and those numbers denote 4-cylinder, 65 horsepower. A very, very useful tractor and technically quite an advanced tractor. Hello, Cliff. Nice to see you. I'm going to come and interview you in a minute, you naughty boy.